As-Sabiqun rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Ahmaduhu wa asta'inuhu wa astadihi wa astaghfiruhu wa umminu bihi jalla wa ala wa la akfuruhu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Arsalahu bil huda wa dinil haqq ليظهره على الدين كله والله كره المشركون. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. This way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. Amma ba'd, fa inna astikal hadith kitabullah, wa awtaka al-ura kalimatul taqwa, wa khayrul milali milatu Ibrahim, wa khayru sunani Sunatu Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, wa ashraful hadith dhikrullah, wa asanu al-kasasi hadha al-Quran, wa khayrul umuri awazzimuha, wa shayrul umuri muhdatatuha, wa asanu al-hadyu hadyu al-anbiya, وأشرف الموت قتلوا شهداء وأشرف الموت قتلوا شهداء وأشرف الموت قتلوا شهداء وأما الأمة دلالة بعد الهدى وخير الأعمال ما نفع وخير الهادي ما أتباع وشير الأمة أما الكون Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said the most truthful of discourses is Kitabullah, or the Book of Allah. The most trustworthy word is taqwa, or fear of Allah. The best of the communities is the community of Prophet Ibrahim. The best way of life is the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The remembrance of Allah is the most glorious of all things. The best of all narrations is Quran. The best acts are those requiring the highest degree of will and determination. Worst acts are those based on innovation. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The best way of life is the one adopted by the prophets of Allah. The most wretched blindness consists of going astray after finding the right way. The best acts are the ones that yield benefits. Best guidance is that which people may be able to follow. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allah yahmuru bil-adli wal-ihsani wa-ita'i dhil-qurba wa-yanha anil-fashai wal-munkari wal-baghi ya'idukum la'alakum tadhakkarun. Allah commands justice, the doing of good, and liberality to kith and kin, and He forbids all shameful deeds and injustice and rebellion. He instructs you that you may receive admonition. فَمَنْ يُرِيدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَدِيَّهُ يَشْرَ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Those whom Allah in His plan willeth to guide, He opens their breast to Islam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Attaqullah haqqa tukatihi wa la tamutuna illa wa antum muslimun. O you who believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in a state of Islam. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khairul mursaleen. Muhammadin an-Nabi al-Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ijma'in. Amma ba'd. Yaqulu Allahu ta'ala fil Quran al-Kareem. Inna Allaha wa malaikatuhu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wassalimu tasliman. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Mulana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa kad makru makrahum wa indallahi makrahum in kana makrahum litazula minhu al-jibalu. Mighty indeed were the plots which they made, but their plots were well within the sight of Allah, even though they were such as to shake the hills. It goes on to say, never think that Allah would fail His messenger in His promise, for Allah is exalted in power, Lord of retribution. When this litazula minhu al-jibalu, technically that means that these plots were so well constructed and well developed and relatively well executed that it would shake the al-jabal. It would shake the very hills. And the word-for-word dictionary, technically it says that it would make them disappear. That's the third meaning of it, that they would disappear. Technically, that means the plots and schemes against Islam and freedom of the people and liberation are historically so well developed and executed by Pharaoh and all of the pharaonic forces throughout history. Whether they were in Egypt, whether they're here in the West, Africa, Asia, the Middle East, the world has gone through its primary stages of development where the animal self has generally been in charge of the world affairs. So for the last several thousand years, the human being has generally submitted to their nafs and their lower selves in executing leadership, management, governing people's affairs, and even in their own personal lives. So when the Quran is telling us that those plans are so mighty and so well executed that they have been historically successful, and there's only been brief periods throughout history where the light of justice and truth has really shone. And the greatest of that period was the period of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because you got to remember, in past times, in biblical and religious times, it was not some social revolution. Allah always sent prophets. You don't hear of no social reformer coming and saying, let's liberate the people, da, 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 da. They had some good philosophers, Confucius and all those people, but never a real liberation movement. The only liberation movements that we see in real ancient history, right? That means total liberation, not only liberation from the pharaoh or the ruler of the time, but liberation from the gravitational pull of the dunya. So the only complete transitional way of life that came to us was religion, right? And they were all basically the same, and all the prophets, peace be upon them all, had the same basic message. Some of them had books, some of them didn't. It says it might have been as many as 124,000 prophets, somewhere around there, and only basically 6 of them had a risala. That means a book. So here we are now faced with Jahiliyyah Maximo, supersonic Jahiliyyah. We have the message of God, we have the teaching of the Prophet, peace be upon him, but what are we to do with this now? Well, I read this ayat, but this strength of the governmental plans of the enemy are dependent on your weakness. They're not absolute. Like the shaitan. If you are very weak, right, the shaitan is very strong. If the shaitan whisper you to, man, you can go and try a little heroin, it ain't gonna bother you. I'm your success advisor. And he talks, he's whispering very gentle, sweet, oh, it ain't shit, you ain't gonna get hooked. Them other people don't worry, they just wasn't on their job. But you got more discipline than they do. You sharper than they are, you smarter than they are. And so you start chipping a little bit, pretty soon you get hooked. At that time, the shaitan is not whispering to you. He kicking your bed, get up, brother. Time to go get your shot. Well, I ain't got no money. You better go out and burglarize, rob, and steal. You better do something. He ain't whispering anymore. He have assisted you, directed you in your addiction. And he's stronger now because you're weaker. This is the same way it is with us today. The satanic forces that rule the world, this is mighty are their plans. Their plans are powerful and strong if you are weak. But if you institute the Quranic guidance and Quranic leadership, the shaitan, you can buckle the shaitan. Yes, the shaitan is not no dictator. He can't tell you nothing. He can't make you do nothing. The Satan, the shaitan, is his weakness and strength depends on you. Yes, he does. Just like any obstacles throughout, in ancient times, people lived behind certain barriers. It was rivers. They couldn't cross the big giant river. So on this side they spoke one language, on the other side they spoke another. Because they couldn't hardly get across unless somebody stumbled across or some kind of way. There were mountain ranges, big, huge mountain ranges. People on this side of the mountain spoke and acted and had certain culture, and people on the other side of the mountain could not get over and communicate with those. Those were huge barriers that separated peoples, times, and events. But see, as the human being began to progress materially and physically and grow, pretty soon he could make a boat or a ship that go across that river. Pretty soon he could make a boat that could go across the ocean. So he became a universal or international creature. And those great mountain ranges that would absolutely separate us, now we fly over them and look down in a plane, right? We're flying over 35,000 feet, those mountain ranges, not the 10, 15, 20,000 feet at the most. We can fly over them because we have historically overcame those obstacles. And now you look down on those barriers and those obstacles. The Quran and the Hadith, the historical process, and your own experience, discipline, comes from the process that Allah gave the human being to rise so high that he transcends, he transforms, and then he transcends. Transcends means that we fly over those things that used to bring us down. The shaitan used to whisper to us all the time in the dunya, and he had more authority in those days. Now, hopefully he has less authority now, because our automatic general practice of Islam, right, will rescue us from most of the mechanisms of the shaitan. So his plans and schemes would be mighty, but that's according to us. We have a dilemma right now. This video is mainly, this one is for Oakland. Today we're going to do 3. This one, break up for a minute, then do 2 more. Because we have a dilemma. We have risen to a certain position in front of the people. But the people do not understand what we're trying to tell them, because they judge us by what they're used to judging by. They judge us by their American, their Negroid and historical, right, biographical reasoning. That's what they judge us. They've been looking at us. I put it this way. They have been observing what's been going on in Oakland. And they think that what's happening in Oakland is really the way they perceive it. Because they perceive it in Jahiliyyah terms, in governmental terms, and in historical terms. I'm going to try to speed up a little bit. So here, this is December 14th, 1986. That's almost 30 years ago. Prerequisite for unity. Masjid al-Islam clears the air. Masjid al-Islam clears the air. That's what we was doing 30 years ago. we had went through a period of encirclement and suppression and what have you, and now we getting ready to go to another stage. So we're going to clear the air. That's exactly what we're doing now, except we are in a higher state of evolution, except that the basics are very similar. Now this is December the 14th. We're having a big seminar at our Masjid. But I have right here for my notebook, and it's, keeping a little count of what you do every day. And it says, now December 6th, of course I ran Chabot and what have you, and it says notebooks missing, 4 date books, accordion folder missing. But I write it down as a big victory. That means the government snitches in the Masjid have stole my daily and monthly and yearly records. But then it has down here the 9th and the 10th. The 9th, Sheldon, that's Abdul Kareem, my youngest son, is arrested. It has Terrell, my youngest son, he's arrested on the 10th. The program is on the 14th. Now in those days, they're the only ones that could bear witness to everything that I'm getting ready to say in the program. Because most of the other people are either government agents or transient, and the only one that could, I'm going to clear the air. That means this has all the groups and movements and organizations, and I'm going to basically set the record straight. So the government is in tune with everything we're doing in detail. That's why they steal the stuff a week before the program, but it don't have no effect on nothing. So Masjid al-Islam clears the air. Well, we want to clear the air a little bit for Oakland. We want to explain to them. When I go to Oakland next week or whatever, I'm going to take that CD and DVDs, I'm going to pass them out along with some other written material. And I'll be doing this for the next couple of years because that's the stage we're in. Now, on the way to correcting things, I want to read something from the Quran. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا أَنْ أَخْرِجْ قَوْمَكَ مِنَ الظُّلُمَاتِ إِلَى النُّورِ وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِآيَاتِهِمْ اللَّهِ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ الْآيَاتٍ لِكُلِّ صَبَارٍ شَكُورٍ. This is and we sent Moses with our signs and a command, bring out the people from the depths of darkness into light, and teach them to remember the days of Allah. Verily, in these are signs for such as who are firmly patient, constant, grateful, and appreciative. This is Allah telling the Yahud to remember the Passover, to remember, when God's protecting them. Remember when you crossed the sea, and remember all of those things, right? Ayom Allah, it means the days of Allah. Those certain red letter days in history that causes you, right, to be grateful and thankful about where you are now. In other words, it's telling you how you got here. Don't forget your history. Is one of the things it's telling. And it says that Allah sent Musa alayhi salam to bring the people, to lead the people out of the depths of darkness into the light. That's his job. That's his responsibility. But this is something for such who are firmly patient, constant, and grateful and appreciative. And that's basically the subject today, is on gratefulness, on appreciating, what Allah gives you. Remember, Moses said to his people, call to mind the favors of Allah to you when he delivered you from the people of Pharaoh. They set you hard tasks and punishment, slaughtered your sons and let your women folk live. Therein was a tremendous trial from your Lord. We're very familiar with that. Put all the young men in prison, killed some of them, keep them broke and poor, and in jail. That's just the policy of America. That's nothing new, okay? And remember, your Lord calls to be declared publicly. If you are grateful, I will add more favors unto you. But if you show ingratitude, truly my punishment is terrible indeed. So Allah says, remember your Lord calls to be declared publicly. Whatever is Allah shown, He's shown it to them clearly, where they could see it, they could taste it, and they could apprehend it. We'll get to what it's talking about lately. So if you're grateful, I will give you more. That means if you're grateful and thankful, but what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you, then Allah will give you more. But if you show ingratitude, now this word that they use, kafartum, for ingratitude, is from kafir, kufr. Gratitude is next to iman, gratefulness, right? And ingratitude is disbelief. Because Allah sent you all these beautiful signs, and you didn't believe it. I don't believe that. That ain't nothing. We'll get to that later, how people can get it. Yet Allah is free of all wants, worthy of all praise. Allah don't need you, is basically what it's saying. Allah is free from all that. And Moses said, if you show ingratitude, you will all on earth together. If Moses said, if you show ingratitude, you and all on earth together, yet Allah is free of wants, worthy of all praise. So Allah is telling you, if you don't do right, that's too bad for you. Allah don't need you. I had a couple more that'll give you a little. And remember, we delivered you from the people of Pharaoh. They set you hard tasks, slaughtered your sons, and let your women folk live. Then was a tremendous trial. And remember, we divided the sea and saved you and drowned Pharaoh's people within your very sight. Now you got to remember, the Yahud was in bondage in Egypt for 400 years, basically like we were. They had developed a slave mentality, just like you and I have. And they saw Pharaoh as permanent and almighty. Now Allah drowns Pharaoh right, the Quran says, right in front of your very sight. Right? Allah just finished them off right in their very own, they could see it with the very, and remember, we appointed 40 nights for Moses, and in the absence ye took calf for worship, and ye did a grievous wrong. After Allah had saved them from Pharaoh, Musa alayhi salam goes up to get the tablets. 40 days is going to be gone, and before his footsteps is warm, they done made a calf, an idol, and they thinking the calf and jumping up and down and running around the calf. And we did, and you did a grievous wrong. Even then, we did forgive you, and there was a chance for you to be grateful. Even, polytheism, calf worship, idol worship, Allah hates that. That's like being a mushrik. Allah hates that. It's paganism. It's the mushrikeen. Even then, Allah forgave him. And remember, we gave Moses the scriptures as the criterion between right and wrong, and a chance for you to be guided aright. And remember, Moses said to his people, "O my people, you have indeed wronged yourselves by your worship of the calf. So turn in repentance to your Maker and slay yourselves, the wrongdoers. That will be better for you in the sight of your Maker. Then he turned towards you in forgiveness. He is all forgiving, most merciful." Now the commentary says, Moses' speech may be constructed or construed literally, as translated, in which case it reproduces Exodus 32, 27 and 28, but in a much softened form. For the Old Testament says, "Go in and out from gate to gate throughout the camp and slay every man his brother and every man his companion and every man his neighbor. And there fell on the people that day 3,000 men." Now this is in Exodus. This is the way the Jews view it. The Zionists. The Yahoo. Allah is telling this story, and Allah is saying, you people mess up so much, you ought to kill yourself. That's what it says. Slay yourself. Amen. Allah is trying to help the people. And remember, you said, "We shall never believe in thee until we see Allah manifestly. But you were dazed by thunder and lightning even as you looked on. Then we raised you up after your death. You had a chance to be grateful. And we gave you the shade of clouds and sent down to you manna and quail, saying, 'Eat of the good things we have provided for you.' But they rebelled. To us they did no harm, but they harmed their own souls." You know what this is telling us? The human character. It's telling us you got to work for the cause of Allah. You want to help humanity, but you can't get hooked up in the people going to jump up and be happy about what you're talking about. In this case, Musa alayhi salam done brought them out from bondage, and they got their back to the sea, and they said, "Oh my goodness, Moses, you're talking all of that trash. There's Pharaoh right there, all his army, and there's the water. What are you doing? What's happening here?" Right? That's what they're saying. You read any commentary. They are panicked, upset, and mad. Musa alayhi salam said, "Don't worry about a thing." Now, in some scriptures say he just took his stick and hit the water, and it parted the sea. Everybody agrees that the water opened up. And it was a dry land where the water is up just like in 10 Commandments. Y'all see Charleston Heston 10 Commandments? Power. A little bit like that, maybe. I don't know, something, Cecil B. Mills would be getting busy. But there's the water. It says in the book, there's the water, there's the dry land, and they walk through. While they're going through, Allah holds them back with some pillars of fire or something. The Quran don't say that, that's the Bible. Anyway, everybody gets through. So now here comes Pharaoh. They drowned the booger, the joker, right in front of everybody. You know what they did? That ain't nothing. That's what the book said. He said, "That ain't nothing. What's the big deal about drowning Pharaoh?" Suppose me and you got to the Potomac, and all the white folks is behind us. We're trying to get over to Virginia. All the bridges is out. You know, all the white folks, the government, everybody trying to catch us, put us in the penitentiary and kill us. And the 14th Street Bridge is there. If that opened up, just that little joker, and we walk through, and then all the other FBI, CIA come running through there, and they get drowned, how would you feel? Would you feel like, hey man, we saw 5 on the black hand side. Look what just happened, right? I mean, we're not no super religious people, but that would be, hey man, I got it. Allah, I got it. That's plenty for me, right? We just normal people. Not the Yahoo, that ain't nothing. Then they walking around in the desert, and Allah put a shade over them. Give them free food and everything. That ain't nothing. Soon as Moses leaves, they done made a calf to worship. Allah done did all this. A calf can't talk or nothing. And they done collected all their jewels and everything and gold and made a calf. Now Allah said, y'all mess up so bad, you ought to kill yourself. You ought to commit suicide. You jokers, hey man, y'all, hey man, okay, I forgive you. That's what Allah says. Allah forgave him. Right? Allah forgave him. Overlook that stuff. But the Yahud is not that forgiving. The Yahud reads it in his scriptures in Exodus when God say y'all done messed up. You read what I said. He said, go you in and out of every house, every gate, and kill all your neighbors, all the friends, and kill everybody. And they knocked over 3,000 people. But Allah says that he turned to you and was merciful, that maybe you will be grateful and appreciative. Basically, that's a sign for us, dear believers. When you're dealing with people and movement, and especially the Negro, anybody like Negroes, don't get all juiced up, that they got to follow some serious criteria, right, for you to do God's work. You have to do your work no matter what happens. It is we who have placed you in authority on earth and provided you therewith the means for fulfillment of your life. Small are the thanks that you give. Allah created everything for you, and we still act a little funny. Dear believers, this thing about Oakland, we done had what people in Oakland thought was a lot of fitna. And I want to explain to the people of Oakland that that was not fitna. What that was a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Planned, organized, and manipulated by us. That we actually was the ones who arranged and who organized that whole fitna process. And also, we want to explain to the people how we feel about their great hero. See, if they see say we've bought, now, you know, Allah helps you a lot of times the way you want to be helped. So like if we chose optimism, you know, kindness and humor is our policy. Yeah, years ago. Allah will maybe give you that as your solution to whatever you encounter, because that's the way you lean. You might be a sword wielder. So Allah give you a big sword and you can spin it around and chop people up. That's the way Allah wants you to move. But if you have chosen for yourself, based on your own character, the policy of kindness, right, of optimism and humor, it's very possible that everything that happened to you, this is the way you will interpret. This is just a little victory of Masjid al-Islam over the combined forces of American Zionism. This is the thing we passed out when Mukhtar called the police, their friends, and had me arrested in the masjid. And this is a little arrest report, and it says, refused to go by request of the owner. In other words, Mukhtar says he's the owner, right? We've been had activity in the masjid for 35 years. Everybody in Oakland knew that the masjid belonged to us. But we had several little incidences of people trying to encircle and suppress and destroy the Islamic movement. We'll go back to the one that we started with. Prerequisite for unity, Masjid al-Islam clears the air, 1986. Well, we're going to clear the air a little bit now. If we go back to the people around Masjid al-Islam, if we go back to the people of, say, 1984, Abdul Malik, who was the Amir, I told y'all before, that was a program at the Youth Development Center. The nation of whatever it was there, and the minister there, and Abdul Malik was with him. Abdul Malik's supposed to be sharp and all of that, pretty boy. And China boy, the minister, snapped his finger like that. And Abdul Malik picked up his briefcase and followed him right on home. I said, man. So Abdul Malik used to come to our masjid sometime. He was the president of the school over there. What's that? San Francisco State. So I said, man, I'd like to help that guy. So when he came by, after a while, I started helping him a little bit, understand real Islam. He was talking about, well, I'm a Malcolmist. We all love Malcolm, but we're not Malcolmists. We're Muslims. Anyway, so it took a while. So, you know, in school, high school, and in college, they have little in-crowds. And they have their standard of acceptance in some of these schools. This crew, we call the curly-headed crew, they were mostly fair-skinned like, and, you know, curly-headed. That's why we wasn't against nobody. That's just their reference. And when you're in school, you have a different, especially women when they're in high school or maybe they're in early parts of college, but when they start getting ready to get married, they want a man that can take care of stuff. They don't want just because he got curly hair, that don't mean nothing, but in high school, that's a big deal, right? But when them girls get grown, all that stuff, I mean, they like beautiful, handsome guys, but that's not the main. They may look at the bank account first before they look at the hair. In high school, you look at the hair first because you're at home with your mama and all that. So what I'm trying to say is our crew in Oakland had a high school attitude about everything. We used to refer to the masjid as the masjid turns. Because all they had was girl-boy stuff. They had this up until the people was 40 or 50 years old and still doing it. So it was a little incident there about one of the sisters. We call her Halle Berry, because actually she looked like, this is way years ago, She actually looked like Halle Berry, was built like Halle Berry, so we called her Halle Berry. It was some things came up, and she wanted to marry somebody, and they told Abdul Malik. Abdul Malik told her, shouldn't marry him, you should marry me. So anyway, the woman married him, but it was always something stupid going on. So I walked in a couple of times, and I saw Abdul Malik snapping his finger at her, like China boy did him. And I said, we don't do people like that. You know what I mean? Like if some people have some internal weakness, we build people. We don't, like the white man always, and I used to notice these people, they was always talking about, you can't break me. If they went with somebody, their wife or they something, you can't break me. I said, oh, I got a serious relationship that they got to worry about, you ain't going to break me. And I said, that's what the white man do. The white man's always trying to break niggas and make them do stuff. And that's their attitude with their family. You ain't going to break me. So anyway, a pretty boy messed around, and now before that he had told me in '83 about pimping. You know, he would come to the Masjid, he'd say, you know, you got to treat people, you know, like a pimp. And I said, wait a minute, man, we are in Islam, and we don't be, that's not our way of dealing with things, you know what I mean? Now, he was talking pimp talk, and now I know he had read Iceberg Slim. Y'all may remember Iceberg Slim? And all them old Donald Goines and all them books. Okay. So, this is your favorite Negro right here. This is the biggest paper in town. Sharp Negro, talent agent. Forget the Jew right here. I mean the Zionist. This is Bob Hoffman. He was a big tailor in town. So, we were the sharpest Negro in town. That's just a fact. I'm telling you that so you understand. I'm not telling you nothing from, so I'm trying to tell him. Now y'all can't see this here, but this is pretty sharp. Color coordinated, tan, brown, mink hats, everything. You can see the mink is in the car. Them are sharp niggas, that. People couldn't afford that stuff in those days. They actually can't afford it now. So, being sharp and knowing about pimping. This is one of the boys. This is a bad boy here. That was a Broham. Negroes love Brohams. That was before the days of Benzes. You know. So he was telling me all my friends was the biggest pimps in town. And that's who we hung around with half the time. So he was telling me about pimping. I was trying to give a moral and an ethical lesson. Anyway, Allah will whoop you so loose that you won't know whether you're going or coming. So he want to be treacherous with the little girl. The little girl goes through the process and break their brother's heart. Now, you can't be no broken-hearted Mac. You just can't do it. That's against the rules of the game. If you was in the game and you did get hurt by a woman, you couldn't tell nobody. So what's wrong with this man out here? He's a broken-hearted pimp. This nigga's a broken-hearted pimp. Something is wrong with that nigga. What's wrong with you? They would laugh you out of town. Now Abdul Malik, I come back to Oakland, he was sitting in the chair looking at the wall. You know, when Drew would be hanging out, I said, man, you got to snap out of it. And I did help him, because I knew the problem. That's what we've been living through all our life. Anyway, what I'm trying to point to is if you do wrong, Allah may whoop your behind with exactly the thing, right, that you was trying to build your house on. And it says that all the time, that Allah will encircle you and will attack you and destroy you by the very things that you was taking precautions against. Same thing. Now this gets back to Mukhtar now. Mukhtar now, here come Mukhtar. Mukhtar is not a broken-hearted pimp, he's a henpecked joker. y'all seen Khadijah, she's 300-some pounds. And Abdul Malik gets them together, married. But here's a case of the Buffalo girl, always in love with her dream boy, the curly-headed Amir. And so she is the battering ram. When we had our program right here in 2002, Khadijah came here and started a fight with, we know whose wife, right down there, and it destroyed the friendship of the whole program. That's because Abdul Malik had her do that, because they was trying to destroy the unity of our activity, right? So, now, dear Mukhtar, we referred to him as the henpecked. Now, here's a guy, you know, all the fitna and all the challenges against me, Mukhtar is standing back and his wife is coming forward, right? And ain't nobody saying nothing. Actually, the girl even kind of punched me a couple of times, and she talked real bad, you know. She told me, man, Musa, you ain't no man. You ought to have titties like me. Now, they was out to get a response, is what they thought. They thought I was going to act like Big Hank, this Negro here. You know, you got to remember in California, we had the strongest and the biggest, up until today, drug organization and other organization in Oakland. But it was something different that I want to tell you about, if I can speed it up a little. We were a little different in this. It was actually the government that encouraged us to sell drugs. I didn't know it at the time. But as time went on, I realized that drugs was used to destroy the black community. Now, at that time, we're like petty black nationalists. You know what I mean? I'd been in the Nation of Islam and all of that. And that was new for California. That was new with that black mentality. So the police thought it would be better to steer somebody towards drug dealing than it would be toward black liberation. And they did. But there's something that you have to remember. If you look at this picture, this is my brother, this is Johnny Gunn, we call him. These are Black Panthers. Right down here was my main dope house. And right in front of the dope house is a pawn shop, and right next to that is the Black Panther headquarters. And if you look at his clothes, this is Johnny Gunn. When they went to Sacramento, the Black Panther Party, it was to do what? It was to show that we have a right to carry guns. So they came in the state assembly with guns. You know, that's what they did. Okay? We were dope dealers. But we were also supporters of the movement. Everybody in Oakland knows that we supported the black movement. That's why when the government realized that we wasn't just dumb niggas riding up and down the street in all these big cars, that we were part of a crew called Black Mafia. If you study Philadelphia, you'll see that they was deep into it. They weren't very nice, though. Philadelphia is not a nice crew. They were friends of mine. We were in the same type, but they got nice. When I was at McNeil Island, my two lieutenants, both of them was from Philadelphia. So when I was in Leavenworth, the whole fruit in Leavenworth was from Philadelphia. The idea was what we call Black Mafia. We believe that these civil rights people jumping up and down, carrying flyers, getting sprayed by water, they ain't getting nowhere. If you want to be free, you have to be rich and powerful, like white folks. We were perfect copies of white people. We believed in those concepts. And what made us bigger than other Negroes was other Negroes used other Negroes as role models. We didn't do that. You know who our role model was? TV program, Untouchables, Al Capone. We structured our whole movement just like Al Capone on TV. You know what? The thing worked. It worked just like on TV. Al Capone, Big Al, Big Hank, all the lieutenants, all of them are rich too, you know. And we structured a program that nobody's been able to copy off of television, not off real life. All the other big pimps and hustlers copied the Negroes before them. We didn't pay nothing. That ain't big enough. Let's be like on TV. Hey man, it worked. I'm telling you, it worked like a charm. And it had an influence on the society. But here's the thing, the system said these niggas are more dangerous than the Black Panthers. Number one, we helping the Black Panthers. All of us is home folks. Our dope house is in front of their back of their building. So don't be the movies. Black Panthers was against dope. They wasn't against us. And if it wasn't true, when we leave the country in the 70 or 71, why would we go to Algeria where the Black Panther Party is headquartered? Right? Why would we do that? If you just regular drug dealer, you would run off to the Monte Carlo, you would run off to some resort place. You ain't going to no revolutionary place if you a dope dealer, right? I'm going to try to speed up. What I'm trying to tell you is a history that we're dealing with here and we're dealing with in Oakland. Allah sent us people that would do the dirtiest things, but they would be hilarious. Remember I was telling you that Mukhtar was, and one of his friends playing like a Black Panther, he wasn't of course, was telling me that that this right here, this type of thing, was a secret, you know, where if you work, yes. Some white paper truck is blocking down there, yeah, okay. Anyway, as all y'all can see, if you have one of these, this is a secret interest to the CIA. That's right. That's what it is. That's what they, and I got it on record. I said, would you be? They said, yeah, man, you a CIA agent. I said, so when all the brothers get out of the penitentiary, all the revolutionaries, they call me and I take their money, and so that means I'm the police. I said, when everybody came down to South America to visit me when I was at run off, all of them came back rich. I'm the only one that ever went to prison. None of them went to prison. Now, that's a serious snitch there. When only you ever go to jail and nobody else go to jail. Right? So anyway, they was just talking. So they said, this, you could imagine how hard I was laughing. They said, that license plate, look at it, taxation without representation. That means you work for the government. I didn't even argue with them because they're so stupid. Remember, Allah send you what you want. Humor. How could I get mad at somebody that dumb? Right? Allah didn't get mad at them. Allah said, you people are so crazy, you need to kill yourself. But I'm going to turn to you in kindness and mercy. That is our lesson. That's what our lesson is for this movement. Because if we responded in kind, we would become basic brutes. That's what we would become. And you would have to kill everybody, because everybody's the police. Like in the dunya, in Jahiliyyah, when you get big up in drugs and anything else, hey, if you got $5 million here, or something, and the police said, well, we're going to have to give you 50 years, brother, unless you kind of help us out a little. What are you going to do? Let that $5 million go to waste? And the guy you're going to tell on is not that friendly to you no way, right? That's the rules of that game. We broke all of those rules. What we have done, we have made the European, the American system, show itself as it really is in front of the public. See, it was hard. Like, here's the hadith. Says, Abu Ja'far reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw a man of the dwarfs and fell down in prostration. What that means to us is, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just like it says, saw a man of the dwarfs. And the messenger was so grateful, at least the Prophet Muhammad was so grateful that he fell down in prostration because he was thankful that Allah didn't make him like that person. That's the same way we feel. I have that hadith for a reason. When I see them coons, tattletales, and snitches that have worked against the movement, right? Everybody knows that all the money we raise here, we've set it in Khutbah. Some of our friends have problems, and we don't have but $52,000, $51,000. We give them $50,000. We've done it right here. We've discussed it. That's what we do, right? The brothers overseas, them niggas that got into our account with the help of, the Bank of America and the U.S. Treasury, to try to make us mad. They didn't make us mad, they made us glad. Because that's so illegal and so insane that we are happy that they did that. You see what I mean? And not only that, we have been in the process of arranging these types of events for the last few years. That's what we've been doing. Because if you know that the government is here, or the government is there, and you know who the informers are, but don't nobody else know, it's bad on you. You know all of this, right? See, and you may have been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years. See, being from California, this is something that's personal. See, when you hear about the Soledad brothers, it's three of them. One of them was my workout partner, Frida Drongo. George Jackson, you already heard of, was a homeboy. John Cluchetti, he didn't, he got out of jail and went back to South. Anyway, that's his business. Those are friends of mine. W.L. Nolan, the ones that taught them manhood training, was one of my friends. The government killed him in the yard, Soledad, right, in 1968. They killed George Jackson in 71. You saw that arrest thing I showed you, my two sons? The police arrested my sons so much that they just, after they turned 16 or 17, the rest of their time was in jail. And I couldn't do nothing about it. Of course, you tell them something, and then you know how smart niggas are when they're that age. Boy, but when they did about 20 years, you know what the government did? They saved my son's life. You know why? Because none of them have any friends that was alive. That was during that late 80s and 90s period. And just like D.C., nobody, you would be lucky to get to 21. Remember that time? In D.C., Oakland was the same. All their partners. My son, when he was 16, was showing me his photo album and wasn't nobody alive in there but him. When he's 16. That's how deadly the system is. The system moved against us years ago. And I'm not going to be bragging, but I'm telling you because this is going on thing and I want Oakland to know. See, Oakland, right now, when something happened, they looking at me like, oh, man. And they drive by and look at the Masjid and look at me. How long is brother going to last, you know? And I know it. They looking at what happens to me based on if it happened to them. That stuff was effective on us 45 years ago. And when we saw that we couldn't effectively confront the system straight ahead, we said, well, we'll give you a break, cracker, and we left. But we didn't just run around and leave in the woods. We went to Algeria. And Algeria was one of the frontline states for the revolutionaries throughout Africa, right? Not only Black Panther Party was there, but people from South Africa and other places were studying there, training there to fight against the rest of the colonial Africa. Then the next place we show up, I was led there. If you read Malcolm's book, Kofi Bashar, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's press secretary. I stayed with him a while. He said, well, you need to go. He gave me a letter of recommendation to East Africa. I didn't even know who Muhammad Babu was. All of y'all that studied Black history, and Muhammad Babu was one of Malcolm's ex-best friends. When I started listening to all the CDs, I said, there's Muhammad Babu. Muhammad Babu was the Minister of Rural Planning and Urban Development, something like that. So I went to his office when I got there and I said, well, this passport, it ain't me, I ain't gonna do no wrong, I just wanna, he said, fine. He took a liking to me. I didn't know why. They told me later. He was from Zanzibar. He was a smuggler before the rebellion. So here come another smuggler. So I didn't know, but anyway, we studied the decolonization process. The people need money. When I went back to South America to send cocaine to America, now that's the only cocaine cartel controlled by Negroes before and after. And I'm saying this so that the people of Oakland will understand what was going on in front of their eyes and they didn't know. Remember, Pharaoh got drowned in front of the Yahoo's eyes, and it ain't no big deal. But I'm telling the people of Oakland, because it's one of the main CDs, that his DVDs, here's what happened. We were not dope dealing Negro. Well, 40%. The other 60% was part of the liberation movement. Now, you can send for the people that's right there. They'll tell you the people are still there. You've seen Panther in Africa and all of those films, right? On public television. Call them and ask them. What do they tell you? They say, yeah. Now, when I talked to the Panther Party, I was telling them, well, you need a revolution, so you're going to need money. So how about we start smuggling drugs, and you get all the money for the rebellion. And they turned it down. Half of them liked it, though, but they turned it down. So I said, well, I'll go do it myself. So by the time I was gone for a couple of years, when I came back to Algeria with a bucket load of money, you can tell it's a bucket load of money because you had to declare money. If you went through France, you had to write down, you know, on a little slip what you had. Them people patted me down, and this on the thing right now because of a phony passport in 1972, early 73, that I was going through there, and they confiscated 10% of my money. I said, boy, I didn't go back to bother about it, but I took the rest to East Africa. And I made several trips, and everybody knows it. What I'm trying to tell you is that story about just dealing drugs is not the truth. Most of the truth is is that what we were part of was the Black Liberation Movement as a financier. You know, money and stuff. Now, I don't believe in shooting it out at the police with 50 police and 2 niggas. I don't believe in that at all. And if you ever hear that I was in a house surrounded by the police and I was shooting out the window, that's a lie. If I'm in a house by myself, there's 100 police out there, I'm going to stick a white flag out the window and say, I am coming out. Because when I do, I'm going to do them just like I did them this time. You ain't never seen no nigga whoop the white man, have you? Well, you're looking at one now. Everything we laid on that cracker for the last 45 years, we tried to prove it. Y'all remember the papers in '73 about all the shenanigans and couldn't prove it. But right now, we done raised the whole snitch camp in the USA, in South Africa, some of them Iranians, right? And we still here to tell the tale. It ain't no punch they throwed at us that left a scratch on us, not one. Every punch that the government throw at us, they knock all the other niggas out, everybody. And they've been hitting us dead ahead and ain't a scratch on us right now. That's from Allah. That's grateful. Here's what Peter O'Neill said. This is from East Africa. It says, Musa, Brother Musa enjoyed the tapes very much. Please send more by my mother, your homeboy from the days of struggle. And you can't see that as Peter O'Neill. That's in East Africa. You got to have a long-range approach to dealing with a mean joker. I'm going to use the term so you understand. The white man. The only reason niggas have never whipped him is the same reason my friends in Oakland. They look at him as permanent. They scared of the cracker. Niggas is scared of the cracker. That is the best blessing I've ever had. I ain't never been afraid of no white folks. It's a blessing. Now that means, now you know they whooped us upside the head in them little kitty jails. You don't get away with it like, yo, I ain't scared of it. It's the best blessing not to be afraid of that monster. When the niggas lose their fear of the permanence of that cracker, right now, we got our foot sticking in his behind and his mouth at the same time. That means we done contorted that cracker. How you gonna get your foot in his mouth and his behind at the same time that you done twisted that cracker all out of shape? If y'all came to programs, you would understand what I'm saying. I'm saying this to Oakland, so when we go back next week, it's going to be other ones behind this, so people will know where we are. They don't believe where we are, because number one, they're not Muslims. Number two, they've never challenged the system. So they think this is hilarious. This is like, they think that when the white man used to make us paranoid, and the white folks used to have a helicopter, you know, like they do. And the helicopter would be 20 feet above my house. The house would be shaking. That makes you paranoid. They can't do that no more. They'd have a PG&E, that's like Pepco, on the pole out there, and they'd be looking at you. And you said, police, you're paranoid. They can't do that now. The police can't do nothing now. We're clean. We're living according to Islam. And you know what? The Quran has his history and his decline. He's the one falling. He's the one going under. And guess what? It's all humorous. Everything you see is our program of Islam being instituted today. I'll move toward a close. Here's what we're going to say. I don't care whether it's Saudi Arabia and they want the 28 pages, right? From 911. It don't matter whether it's the strategic alliance between Syria Iraq, Iran, and Russia. It doesn't make no difference whether it's the bombing, right, and the killing of Yemenis by Saudi Arabia, the enemies of humanity. It don't make no difference whether it's the Europeans fitna on the people of color, and now Europe is turning from all European. You know, when I first went to Germany, you know what was there? Germans. It ain't like that no more. Germany is starting to look like America. And the people, non-Germans, have more kids than the Germans. Europe, Belgium, Holland, all those places, when I went there 45 years ago, they were white people there. Now, 20% of the people are of color. And they moved from their own to go to Europe because of the way the white folks was treating their people there. Just like the reason the Mexican Salvadorians are here in America, not only it belongs to them, but how the white people mess up their country in Salvador. And all of those places, so they have to come here. Now the poor white people is mad at the rich white people for messing up their countries, so they gotta come here. Confusion. Insanity. It's hilarious, right? What do we have to do in this? And I'll close. Dear believers, and I'll close with this because I can't get to literally nothing. But our attitude is the same as, this is just little stuff, you know. How to punk the FBI. That's what we tell them. You ain't nothing but punks. You scared other niggas. You don't scare me, cracker. Now, you know, you wish you could talk like that, but you got to pay the price. That's exactly the way I talk to them. Face to face. You ain't nothing, sucker. You a B.I. blankety blank. It's good to be a girl, but the way we use that word, it's not. Tell them, cracker, you ain't nothing but a punk. And you can get away with it. I ain't got a scratch on me. Not a scratch. You can do it. You just got to stand up for yourself. That didn't go far enough. Re-punk the FBI. 2 years later, you a bigger punk than you was then. Since you ain't did nothing the first time, you're a bigger punk than you was before. And I'll close with this. Dear believers, this Islam was sent for us. If we appreciate what Allah sent us, if we're grateful for it, and if we act on it as it is expressed in modern times, Allah will give us the same thing that He gave the people in the past. Why? Because those criminals today are the same as their foreparents. Pharaoh is just like the Pharaoh here today. Right? There's one more thing. If we don't do it, we're going to be some miserable people. Right? If we don't do it, we're going to be some miserable people. I'll close with this. If you don't have dreams and if you don't think things are possible, it ain't going to look good for you. You have to have dreams. And you got to believe it's possible. This stuff is not abstract. The Quran said it. You got to start doing a little bit and then it'll start happening. When you do, you're going to be shocked that it's all real. There's a difference between reading the Quran and living the Quran. Once you start living it, you're going to see barriers explode. And you'll be able to forecast the downfall of your enemy. You know how the white man gets mad? Because I tell him in all these khutbahs, you headed down, cracker. And I've been telling him for the last 30 years, and guess what he's been doing? Every week he done took another notch down, hasn't he? His economy, his society, right? His grasp around the world and what it used to be. Oh boy, ain't what it used to be, right? And the very last thing is, imagine yourself getting ready to die. And you like to think of yourself with your whole family around, saying, oh, he's a good old fella, and we hate to see you go. But there's something else might be around you. Your ideas. You know, they say the richest place on the earth is the graveyard. Because in the graveyard are ideas for everything. The nigga that had an idea for an electronic gyroscope and he didn't do it. The nigga that had an idea about being free and never tried to get free. Right? The people that thought we can fix this country for the people, for the Indians, for the Latinos, for the blacks, for whole humanity. We can do it with Islam. And if we practice Islam, you don't have to worry about dawah. Practice. You start pulling it together, people going to get right on in line. They said that religion is good.
Amen.
That religion is good because the people practice it. Well, Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety.